Dave Palumbo here with an RX Muscle news update. The Indy Pro has let out. The champion has been crowned, as we predicted. Justin Rodriguez doing everything he needs to do, plus more. Dominating, prejudging, coming back at night, validating his victory. It was all about balance. The guy is balanced from head to toe. His upper body and lower body match now. There's no more discrepancy with the legs. His conditioning, he's been able to nail the last couple of times we've seen him out there. I think he's put it all together finally. He's a legitimate, top tier, IFBB pro now. And let's face it, the lineup was not stellar. You didn't have Olympia guys in there, top Olympia guys that Justin had to beat. And this was a warm-up show for him. I'm sure he's going to come back next week in New York and be a very dangerous guy with a tougher lineup, of course. But this is the way it was done years ago. Flex, Wheeler, Cormier, these guys would go to the Ironman Pro in late February, and then they would go to the Arnold Classic a week or two later. And they used that Ironman as a warm-up. And this is a good idea for Justin. He got worked out all the little kinks, and so he's ready to go. To be honest with you, I don't think he needs to do anything different, at next week's New York Pro. I think he should just bring exactly what he brought. It's good enough. And, can he get a little tighter? I don't know, maybe. But I don't know. Maybe even a little fuller. I think it was a good balanced look. And I think that he's a guy that will be tough to beat unless you get a super freak in there. Now, there are going to be some super freaks in this lineup, but while they're going to bring the conditioning, they're going to be able to knock him off. He's a tough guy because he's consistent. And now he really doesn't have any weaknesses. So you have to have someone with more wow factor. A Ruli Winkler, a William Bonac, maybe guys that are just a little bit above him in terms of muscle maturity, roundness, fullness, completeness in their physique. He's not going to see that anywhere else, on this circuit until the Olympia probably, or maybe the Arnold, assuming that it happens sometime in September. So good move on Justin's part. He does this show, the first show of the year. He gets the victory. He's qualified for the Olympia. He doesn't have to worry about it. He can go into New York next week now with a little momentum behind him. And I think the victory was well-deserved. I think that one of the real standouts in this lineup that no one really expected, however, and that's Muhammad El-Imam. And he was really good. He really pushed Justin. He's built very similar. He's got slightly sweepier quads than Justin. I think Justin's a little wider from behind it, but the back shots are very close. Justin just had a little more wow than this guy and a little more stage experience possibly. But he's going to be another guy who's going to be a tough guy to beat in these shows that, I hate to call them B-level shows. They're really not B-level, but they're the shows beneath the top-tier shows like the New York Pro and the Arnold and the Olympia, of course. So this is a good outing for Muhammad because – he's coming here now. He says, look, I'm for real. I beat some good guys. I beat a Blessing Awodibu who was in third place. I beat, Morgan Asti, who's a super freak. He knocked off good guys in this lineup. He didn't beat a slumpy lineup. And that's important because that tells the judges that he's for real. Carlos Chapa, who kind of snuck into that fifth position. We'll talk about him in a minute. Dorian Haywood. These are guys that are established guys, not top-tier guys, but established guys. And the lineup was by far, people were in pretty good shape. And that goes a long way. So, Justin comes in here. Muhammad El-Imam, comes in here with a round, dominating, complete physique. Then you fall into that second tier of guys, which would be Blessing Awodibu, who moved up. I thought he was fourth after prejudging, but he definitely had good conditioning. You can't doubt the guy did his homework. He brought the best that he can bring, given the tools he had to work with. We knew his legs were a little down in size. We know his back needs to come up. But he was in shape, and that's all you can do. You can only control shape, conditioning, and tan, I tell people that. I'd say if you got all those down, you're good to go. And Blessing did all that. His presentation's really good. He was well tanned. He's oiled up good. All the little things that you have control of. Conditioning was good. He just needs more size on him. Kai Green had the same round. Except Kai Green had really good legs when he was on the pro scene. His upper body needed to come up a little bit. So Blessing's kind of got the opposite effect. Let's talk about fourth place Dorian Haywood. I've seen Dorian better. His tan is always a little could always be a little darker too. So I'd like to see him darker and drier. If he's going to be doing New York next week, he's got plenty of time to just harden up a little bit and come in a little darker and drier. And I think he'll be fine for next week. Structurally, he's not the best guy up there, but he's got a lot of muscle. He's got a lot of conditioning when he brings it. And he beats guys because of that. He's bigger. Look, it's a bodybuilding show. Size wins sometimes, Carlos Chapa knocking off Morgan Asti. I don't really know how that happened. I thought Morgan was a solid 4th or 5th, actually, after prejudging. The guy's a crazy freak. I mean, he's 300 pounds. He's 6'3". He was the best conditioned guy on the stage. Structurally, not the best. Okay, and you can make a case Carlos is better than him structurally, but he's so much bigger and so much harder. I like mass. I like freakiness. I would have gone with Morgan for either 4th or 5th. Probably I would have put him in the 4th position because I think Dorian could have been a little tighter. But Carlos, congratulations. Carlos Chapa sneaks in there in that 5th position with Morgan Asti in 6th. So good top 6 lineup. In the 212, Tony Burton won a tremendous victory here. This was a tough lineup. This was by no means an easy show. And, you could look at the quality of guys. When a guy like John Jewett has to settle for 3rd place here, and I think a lot of people felt that he maybe didn't get what he deserved, all these guys were good in the top 3. I looked at them. Nathan Epler is freaking amazing, too. Everyone was conditioned, shredded. And I thought, I think Jewett is so hard, he probably can come in a little fuller and a little rounder. I think, almost he might have been a little too dried out, if you can say that. But it doesn't even matter because he's so conditioned that coming in fuller is not going to take away from how grainy he is. You're not going to lose that. I think I had that problem sometimes. I always felt that, I need to come in harder. At some point, you get smaller, you don't get harder, or you get, you lose some of the roundness to you. So, if John's going to come back again and compete in the next couple of weeks, I'd say just eat more. Have a couple burgers and fries. There's no way you're losing that conditioning. It's so good that it's, the best out there. All right. Nathan Epler, 2nd place. Tremendous physique. It was very close, I thought, between Tonio Burton and Nathan Epler. Those guys matched up very well. I think Tonio just had a little more wow, and that's how it works sometimes. The guys with, that your eyes get drawn to win these shows, and it happens all the time. I mean, look at Brian Balzano. I mean, you look at him and look at his front double by. I mean, he's as good as these other guys. I mean, little nuances. This is a very hard class to judge, and I'm glad I wasn't a judge because it was you get a lot of grief from all the people coming up to you asking, why did you pick this one over me? And sometimes it's hard. It's just a personal, what you like better. Look at Noel Adami, who finishes in the 5th place. This guy is this. He's like a short Morgan Asti. He's a freak. His side leg is ridiculous, and we've talked about him before in years past. And he's really good, but structurally he's not as good as these other guys. So he had to settle for 5th here. He's always going to settle for lower places when there's guys that are just as conditioned as he is or close and who have better structures. In a lineup where guys are everyone's off, he comes in, he wins. And that's how he wins shows. He shows up. All he's got to do is show up because he's the most muscular guy there. He's the most conditioned guy there. And if there's no one better structurally than him, he'll take home the victory. And that's how it works. Congratulations. Big victory for Justin Rodriguez, and well-deserved, of course. Hopefully we'll see him next week in New York, which won't really be in New York. It'll be in Florida, but the New York Pro is next week. For now, though, I'm Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle News Update.